Signore e signori, buongiorno.
Good afternoon. I'm Nicola Di Lernia, and I will be moderating this roundtable with some outstanding representatives of school and training institutes. Afragoli is the president, and he doesn't teach to anybody, but sometimes he has to do so. So this round table will be filmed and available on the web page and on YouTube for all the people who could not join us today. So from my left-hand side, Professor Eberle from the Scuola Ottica from Bergamo, Professor Lorè from the Optics School, Fermi in Perugia. On the right-hand side, Professor Fossetti from IRSOO, Righetti from the Zaccagnini School, and my friend Capellini, who is the head of the business school at SIOO. And so he's replacing Professor Abati, who could not come today. Let me start. Well, I actually prepared a small introduction to this roundtable, as I did for previous roundtable, but I threw it away because I read an article in a daily newspaper that is extremely interesting and that I would like to use as an input, as food for thought. Well, I can read this article. Well, learning from other people seems to be quite easy sometimes and very difficult in other moments. And this is what Socrates said about the difficulty in growing up. So it can be easy or not, but knowing oneself allows us to understand how to take care of ourselves. If we ignore that, we cannot know that. And I think this is a very good prompt for today's round table with such outstanding speakers, because it is a very important reflection. Let me show you a survey. And I would like to show you the results of a very recent survey that was conducted by the Two Wise magazine. So what type of training and education do you prefer? That was the question. Out of 100, 48% said free corporate courses and purchase groups. And then group training courses at payment, under payment, and 4% books. Only 6% said I have no time to take care of myself. Well, this is the outcome of that survey. You can reflect upon the results, but I would like each member of the panel to express his own opinion. 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes. So can you express your opinion as a teacher, as a professor, as a trainer, and as a specialist in the optics field? Professor Fossetti, you are the first. Please press the button to switch on the mic. Well, I'm switching off my mobile phone, and please do the same. As far as Socrates is concerned, well, you have a degree in philosophy, that's great. But, well, this has nothing to do with my degree in philosophy. Well, as far as Socrates' quote, well, I think we should go back to high school. Because unfortunately, people attend training courses and well, they show a very poor preparation, let's say. However, I don't want to sound too aggressive, so I don't know which word to use. Well, please know yourself. Well, this is something that you cannot learn at school, and this is a great limitation. But again, unfortunately, we are trying to do our best, and we are trying to teach them as far as possible what they're going to do. Well, our courses are professional courses, professional classes. Well, this is, of course, part of our general cultural background. However, we cannot simply work in order to fix all the issues that arose during the school time. If our students are very well prepared, we will be able to maximize our efforts. Well, I think this applies to each one of us. Well, we can do our best, and we try and to do our best with what we have in order to achieve the best possible results in terms of effectiveness and performance. Well, regarding the survey, can we show the results of the survey again? And can we leave it on the screen, please? Okay, so going back to the survey, I think this survey is optimistic. However, we also have to say that respondents may also be somehow influenced by what they would like to do rather than what they do. So I think that 30% of the people attending training and education courses at universities underpayment. Well, I think this is too high as a percentage. Well, I don't know numbers exactly, but I think we have about 10,000 optic centers, but opticians are much more. So let's say 17, 18,000. No, 30,000 opticians would be too much. Well, let's say 18,000 opticians, 30% means 6,000. So this would mean 6,000 opticians attending refreshment courses, training and education courses. Well, the existing schools would not be enough to provide all these courses. And this means this data is not realistic. So it's rather best case scenario. I think this is based on what people would like to do rather than on what people actually do. And then in conclusion, I'm very keen on this topic actually. This is a limitation. This is a great limitation for our category. The lack of willingness to participating in training and education courses, in keeping oneself up to date, well, this is absent. We cannot perceive that. As you are a philosopher, can we also think that there is a sort of elite within the optic world that aims at being trained and educated on a regular basis? I think there is this elite, and in some particular fields, for example, in the field of contact lenses, I think we've achieved a very high standard situation. So our trainers and our practitioners can stand up with professionals and trainers of other countries. In some cases, they even outperform them. But we cannot live on this tiny elite. We would actually need a much greater number of people willing to improve themselves, to keep themselves up to date, and to make progress in the best possible way. Working on the basis of what was learned 20 years before is nonsense. There's no renewal, and the training of newcomers suffers from the poor education that people receive at school. In the field of contact lenses, I can confirm there are some excellent situations in Italy that can fully stand up with the rest of the world. And now, Professor Righetti, from your viewpoint, as you are active in schools, but you're also a manager, what do you think about that?
Io vorrei integrare.
Yeah, I would like to actually integrate what Alessandro said, so add on what he said. This survey is, yes, important, but it has no statistical value. I mean, it's a trend we need to be aware of. But it's like you prefer not as you actually do. So it means desires versus facts. So maybe also the question was not posed in the right way. Maybe 40% of people would like to go and take courses in specific locations and schools. Of course, they wish to have training that is free and that is pleasant and so on and so forth. But I think that a good work has been done, and we do have two strong academies in Italy, and with actually good mixture between the company academies and the institutional schools, and I think that it's a nice mixture. I'm representing here more an entrepreneurial view, so if the proposal is right, then we are successful. Otherwise, it means that our proposal is below expectations. Now, regarding awareness, I believe that the school world in general and the one for opticians actually is not training properly because there's no vision of what's happening around the world. I would like also to say that I will have to leave you earlier because I have another speech later. But what I was stressing now is sometimes we focus on problems that are and issues that are not those found in the real world. So we need to understand, like for example, in from now to 5-10 years, what a professional that is also sometimes an entrepreneur should do. In the distribution channel, we only have 17,000 of maybe the 50,000 with an optician diploma. They're not there in the stores. And out of those 17,000, they might have not gone to proper school. Or maybe they've attended courses later on, because the average age is 25, 26, 27. So people that discovered this field of expertise later on. And we know but in Italy, this is happening, and so how could a student coming out of school and entering the labor world, how can they know how to plan their professional growth in properly if the school itself is not preparing and is not prepared and doesn't have a vision of what he or she will be needing? So which professional services should be offered in the store. And consumers cannot buy lenses by themselves. You need to have a professional helping you out. So which are the services that are needed in the stores? Well, those that try and meet the needs of the consumer so that he makes the proper selection. But how do we do so if you don't have ideas of the trends in the industry? So I think that the optician store channel is not fully exploiting the sales potential because they don't actually push on the high value products. We're not able to sell as many products as other countries are selling. We're not able to sell because we're not seeing the needs of consumers. So instead, we need to be aware of the expectations of consumers. And besides a technical explanation, we also give something else. And so my view is let's try and have training in line with what's going on. Yeah, I do agree with this scenario. I think that in Italy, actually, we are always keen in finding solutions, but sometimes you need just to find a solution, you need to assess properly the problem. But how long do you think it will take to solve the situation and to improve the situation? Frankly speaking, well, the world is changing anyhow, even though we might not see this. So we have organized so many roundtables on the reform of our profession, but the problem is not this, is what to propose. Optometrists, has been financed by citizens, and they have appreciated it. So the reform of our profession is a secondary problem. What is important is to create a distribution channel with people that can interpret the needs of the citizen consumers and could see which products and devices are in line with such expectations and needs. So having skills also to do so. And of course, you can achieve very high levels with the high value content products, but you have to have a view of where the world is going in 5-10 years. Yeah, I understand you have to be a little bit visionary. Yeah, but it's not a matter of whether I should buy an ophthalmometer or not. It's a different type of mindset that is required. Well, I don't have further comments. I think my vision is slightly different. I'm more concerned about professional aspects. I'm more concerned about a scientific background and skills, which I feel is key and at the basis. But of course, you also need to integrate all this with other knowledge, more like entrepreneurial knowledge that must be there. This awareness Mr. Righetti is talking about is essential. You work on the market. You have to know your consumer, your clients, your customers. but maybe you focus more on research. I know that in Vinci you work on research, right? Yeah, I think that our approach has changed actually in this last 3-4 years. We try and offer both traditional training and experimental training. So yeah, we do also research, because we do have a research center at our school. But research activity, experimental activity, opens up the minds of people. And so in this respect, I think that maybe it's not in the scope of our discussion, but university degree is another issue. Many complain that actually they get out, the students get out of school, and however, the level they have achieved may be lower than the one achieved by other students of professional schools. But I think that the university opens up the mind, and also the few experimental activities that are done in our university help you out in studying further. So our students come out of the university with one further gear, so to speak. Yeah, I do confirm this. I have had this as a feedback. People say that those with a university degree have a different sort of mindset, and yeah, but our university courses maybe should also urge students to continue on their studies in other institutes that could help them out to complete the professionalism. Yeah, if I may add for one further comment, is not that having a vision of the evolution of the market means teaching marketing and not optometry. Of course, we teach optometry and so on and so forth. It's not that we have invested hundreds of thousands of euros in equipment, or we have engaged the most renowned teachers. This is what we do every day, but the reality is that contact lenses has actually been the area that has grown most, whereas glasses have remained more or less the same growth rate. So you have to orient trading, respecting, of course, the basic subjects. So all basic subjects should be there, but you also have to fine-tune the curricula by seeing where the market is going. And yeah, I have now to leave you, but maybe I agree with you. They might have to go back to school, those that have been working on the field for long. This is what this is true for everyone in our world. Yeah, but if you don't have the basic knowledge, then you're not perceiving this. Well, Angelo might be familiar. Well, I don't know such situation, and I wish you a fruitful work, but I have to leave you now. Now, Professor Reverdy, he comes from Bergamo, right? Let's hear his opinion. And he's gone far away in our industry, in our field. Well, I would like to shift now the focus on the real issues in our schools today. I'm more an academic and not so much an entrepreneur, but I do agree on the fact that education training is important, but you understand this importance only when you have completed your curriculum. And in our world, these curricula have been fragmented sometimes, so you might have done one pace at a school and then you changed school, you studied 2 years here, another year here, there, and you then at the end might realize this, but this is our world. We are 30 people here actually hearing about, wanting to know a little bit more about schools. Yesterday we had this meeting on this register for and optometry, but there were so many stakeholders there, with the exception of schools. And why? This exclusion, especially in a world that is moving so fast, and less will be known of what's happening for the poor. People that are there working in the stores. If it's difficult for me to understand the changes that are taking place in the products, imagine a poor optician there. So this survey might be partial, but is very interesting. So I have just written a book, but I see that only 5% is reading books. So it's really sad, because I think that this category won't go anywhere if opticians therefore won't go anywhere if they don't update themselves, are not always up to date. So maybe I think we have to sort of go back and think it over and do it seriously, not just schools, but also the opticians associations or those representing the different trades and purchasing groups. Actually, the problem is that also in there, they're lacking this background that would be needed. It's true, we do have excellencies, so we do have such peaks, but all in all, we are not playing an important role. If you look at what companies are doing, conferences that are organized, you'll never find Italian speakers at international level. You will find the Belgian optician, or you will find the French opticians. I participated in a academy in Budapest and another one in France. But all these excellences that we feel we have, well, they just stay here in Italy and don't look around, not move around. So the scenario is a bit sad and gloomy, not optimistic. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but I feel we need to make a step back, and we need to set up serious schools doing real training, offering real training, making sure that also this category can evolve and grow. But from the basis upwards, not just by providing, pieces of information on the fly that won't stick there. But if we want to be a little bit more optimistic, yes, it's not many people here, but it's Monday and it's lunchtime. And however, we are also broadcasting all this in streaming, so I will update you on the clicks and the views that we will be receiving. However, maybe the logics of technology is that contents are not just linked to printed paper, so why not an ebook? Well, I feel that you have always urged also the business world to have a dialogue with schools, right? Yes, indeed, because our training should start from the market and from the trends on the market. So if companies are proposing certain products, we as schools must follow these products. So once you have provided the basic knowledge, then you will have also to focus on what the market is offering. Otherwise, the gap between the knowledge of our students and what is there on the market will be wider and wider. And I think this can be done. We can be present on the market in terms of training, and even more than the university. The university has a different approach, which is more culture-oriented. It's more targeting the development of a different mindset. Whereas our schools that are not universities could play this role and can certainly prepare the students to tackle the labor world and the market in particular. I think we need to believe more in training. We need to believe more in what our schools can do. And then, of course, it will take time to achieve some outcome. Now, since I have here the president of Federottica, I would like to ask you, first of all, a comment on what has been said so far, and then are opticians taking care of themselves? How many minutes do I have? Well, Churchill said, please write on a piece of paper and tell me how to make sure that Germans will not invade us. 5 minutes. Well, I know you can be short and straight to the point. Now, since I have a different role. I'll start from a different perspective. Now, my reasoning is the following. We are a country in which in the last 30, 40 years, a group of independent colleagues, but I'm representing here by chance as being the president of this category of independent entrepreneurs. Well, as I said, in these last 30, 40 years, and this is something unique in Europe, we managed to brilliantly cope with the growth of chains. And, well, you might ask what this has to do with my question. Well, it's important because in order to cope with these chains, which have a totally different economic path than ours, well, this means that we were quite good at it. Italy is a unique, scenario in this respect. But I think that this outcome is not by chance. It's not, there has not come all at once. There has been a path behind, so steps have been made. And in the past generation, well, they believed in a project, and they managed to be good professionals and entrepreneurs, self-made men, so to speak. So in those years, in the underground, a culture flourished, starting from opticians and optometrists, and this created this Italian miracle, and I'm really proud of it. And it was all, the result of our own efforts. But, of course, now people are, a bit disappointed. The profile is important because defining the roles of a professionist in a clear way allows this professionist to set up around his or her profession also the required knowledge. It's a provocation. I'm provocative now. Then day after, I cannot use a special piece of equipment that I use for contact lenses, but without this, I would not do anywhere. So I wouldn't go anywhere. So defining the roles of the profession is key. So we're moving on in this direction. And then, but the market is a bit, disappointing. This is what, is shown in this survey. But we must say, to sort of put some optimism in there, in this last years, we've seen an increase in the number of those with a degree in optometrist. About 1,000 now have this university degree. I'm actually shifting from Mrs. Fossetti's views now, but I do agree with him on the basic aspects. So I do believe that those with a university degree have a potential, but still needs to be expressed. But we do see a potential in them. But as I said, it's 1,000 people with a university degree that committed themselves seriously. And when students come to me and ask for suggestions in terms of what to study next, well, many say, no, the university, no, because it's too difficult. But, it's not that other paths might be simpler, but a percentage of us actually is believing in training and has committed itself so much in it. So to conclude, I believe that the potential is there. We do have the history, and maybe we should sort of close the cycle in terms of therefore defining a professional profile that is up to date, and so indeed this is what is needed to give a new definition and set maybe new rules and a new scope and perimeter, and then we can have fun in it. But the ECMs have been important for those that organized such courses, but ECMs are now, over there are for the professions in the health industry, and there were someone that opposed, and so we also fell, and we then still have not raised. Okay, thank you very much. An interesting view. But I would like to add that, yes, I feel that Italy is unique in terms of the distribution dynamics on this market. I know it's hard to sort of create boundaries, but your work allowed for the creation of a franchising system that is different with respect to what we see in Europe elsewhere. So I must say that I do agree with the work you have done in this respect. Let's go back to schools with Stefano Lorè. He comes from the south of Italy, actually the most southern school in Italy, and you are a newly appointed director, so I'd like to ask you to give us your view. You're new to the school world, so you might have perceived some details that we have not noticed.
Well, I'm happy to participate in this round table, especially in combination with the success of yesterday as an optician, as an optometrist, and as a professor. I think yesterday something really important happened. After 40 years, finally, the most important associations of our country gathered together, and in this respect, I would like to thank Andrea, but also all the other associations for this incredible event, also as a gruppi. So you've left a sign through the event that we had yesterday. And it was extremely interesting also for us, and we can now really say that things can happen. And this is also to be linked with the development of schools. Well, my heart is split between schools and university, but we have just one single heart. So the passion we had when we were at school and universities should not divide us. It should unite us. And the education system has an important mission to accomplish. And I don't remember who, but there was somebody who said something very important for us. I'm a newcomer, I'm a new director. However, as a background, I'm a university professor. And this allows me to be in contact with young people. The whole Italian school system has one major problem. Pupils and students suffer from great gaps and lacks due to the school. So when a program is drafted for an optics school, we realize that young people lack a lot of great knowledge, and this is not because of them, but it's the school to be blamed. So we train young people after high school, and we have to go back to matters and topics that should have been taught at school. Well, passion, the proximity, and the close relationship can make a difference, of course. And I think all the Italian schools that are present here today have it as a mission, have this as a mission. Well, as far as I'm concerned, and if I had to comment on the topic of training courses that are free of charge, Giorgio Righetti mentioned this earlier. Well, the idea of organizing a free course in a beautiful location where I can listen and learn, but without being checked. Well, you know, I'm sitting there, I listen, I have lunch, I chat a little bit, and then the course is over. I get a certificate, and that's it. But the world has changed. Our world has changed. And therefore, we have to study. And what we study has somehow to be checked. The others, the other practitioners, the other categories that do so. Well, this is interesting, the idea of checking what was learned. Is extremely interesting because it is not right that you certificate your personal knowledge. There must be someone else who checks it. Well, you know, yesterday a question was asked about facilitations. Well, we have what they said. We have to be close to university students. We have to have them fall in love with our profession. But clearly enough, the day comes when it is necessary to be checked. Otherwise, yesterday's event would not make any sense. The CE credits, as Andrea said, were an important moment. We all have had the opportunity to attend refresher courses, training and education courses. We were very happy. Some other people were less happy because they had to leave the store, to go there, attend the course, undergo a test, and this created a conflict. But we need tests, we need checks. The world is making progress. We have to look into the future. So academies and all the cultural initiatives that are offered to us is really key, and we have to propose this to schools as well, because we have to grow together somehow. However, well, it's the percentage that is a bit concerning to me, because, you know, attending free courses only and skipping those courses that require active participation, it's a bit concerning. Well, you know, this goes back to the issue of the elite that we mentioned earlier. Well, Capelli is our last speaker. It's not because he's bad and naughty, but because he is a hybrid vehicle. Because he manages the academy of a big retailer chain, and he's also responsible for an optics school. So I would like him to speak last because I would like to hear his opinion about the
Scuola, insomma.
Grazie. Dunque, stavo osservando
termination of CE
e concordo sul fatto
credits. Well, I was looking for the questionnaire. Well, this 50% of people could choose the free training courses offered by the company. Well, I think it is much higher. But what were the reasons why opticians tend to opt for this kind of training offer? Well, companies have tried and started to offer regular training courses when CE credits started to be implemented. But now that CE credits are stopped, training becomes even more important. Well, I think CE credits were introduced in August 2010, so the first results were achieved in 2011. And this was when the financial and economic crisis in Europe caused problems to the financial accounts of stores. And hence, opticians started to invest less in training and education. Both for time reasons, so trying to stay as much as possible in the store, and also financially. At the same time, however, the market needed greater investments. So there was the need for higher professionalism, for a higher degree of preparation, so that retailers could also sell added value products. However, what was destroyed through the economic and financial crisis had to be offset through the launch of new products with higher technologies. At that moment, I think, the industry, the distribution, took over the task of organizing training and education. So corporate academies underwent further developments, new training courses were launched, and opticians started to benefit from a training offer that was much more consistent than in the past. In some cases, third-party courses remained, and this has led to a greater training offer today than in the past, although requirements are changing. Well, the environment is changing dramatically. We need diverse competencies. Professionalism is really key, and in this respect, I fully agree with the previous speakers. The optometrists must be able to do their job. I don't want to create any conflicts between opticians and optometrists, but being able to perform is necessary. But this is not enough. Nowadays, in my opinion, you need to be able to manage the retail shop in a much more efficient way. So competences have to be properly managed. So you also need to properly communicate your job, enhancing its value and managing it accordingly. So companies, and by this I mean the stores, must be able to manage and handle different competencies. And this is our task. This is the task we have taken over with the partnership with SIOO, because we want to develop the managerial competencies that opticians should have. And then I was thinking about another thing. When we talk about professionalism, professionalism remains often remains an empty word. When I go to a garage because my car has problems, well, I take for granted that the garage is able to solve my problem. And the same applies to our clients. When customers enter our store, they take for granted that we can do our job. So that's clear. The basic requirement has to be fulfilled. At the same time, however, we have to increase the number of services that retain customers, and this applies to the whole category, not to the individual store, so that we can protect ourselves from any interferences coming from other channels. And this is an analysis that, in my opinion, allows us to understand how important collaboration is. So if we can pool our resources and join our efforts, we can basically offset and fill in the gap after the discontinuation of the CE credits. Companies have also started to enter this world, trying to help opticians. Our wish is to help one another, trying to regulate this area on which a lot of work has to be done in order to maximize our results. The last 10 minutes will be devoted to questions and to other contributions. I don't know if you have any remarks. There is a question from a gentleman in the first row. Can you help me?
La parola giusta in questi giorni. Grazie, molto gentile. Si alzi in piedi per cortesia, si presenti.
Could you please stand up and introduce yourself? Well, I represent the Technical Institute Caplero from Termoli. Just a couple of remarks to outline the picture that has already been at least partly described by our colleagues representing other schools. Well, first of all, I must say that I agree with Professor Reverdy and Fossetti. What I'd like to point out is the audience today. Yesterday, during the GfK presentation, the room was packed with people. And this leads me to think that opticians tend to focus rather on commercial aspects rather than on training issues. Even though the survey that was presented yesterday showed that we are moving towards the more technical part of our category, and this needs training. Another remark, well, today's panel, the institute I'm representing was set up in 1977. Someone from the panel said he doesn't know about my institute. Well, maybe it's me. Now, I don't want to be polemic, but this shows how the optic market is perceived in Italy. And then the problem and the initiative launched by the Ministry of Education that was blocked by many schools. Within 1 year, we have run the risk of finding 1,000 or 2,000 opticians without one single day of training. We haven't done anything. No, we did. We did something. We wrote a letter to both ministers, to Lorenzin and to Fedeli, about 1 month ago. Yes, but the ruling dates back to 2016. He didn't know anything about that. I talked to Mr. Fossetti, and thank you, by the way, for inviting us to this initiative. Well, in conclusion, I just would like to reiterate that all this shows the current situation that the optic world is experiencing today. And now a representative from the graduation course in Lecce. Well, I'm also a veteran in the field of optics, but this is the starting point. So you usually start with a room with 50 people and maybe some other people who look at the video, but this is the starting point. So we need to progress. That's the beginning. I'm sorry, very quickly, because then we have Federottica. Maurizio Martino, and I'm the head of the graduation course at the University of Salento in Lecce. As our university was mentioned a couple of times, I would like to express a couple of remarks. I'm a physicist and I've been working in the optic field for quite some time. My impression as a third party is that optometry training, the training and education offer in the field of optometry is very irregular. So what I would like to see is, let's say, a better organization of training and education. Yesterday I could not attend the event, unfortunately, so I heard that there was a meeting between among the different associations, and I'm very happy to hear that. We as universities have always wished that. And it is also important to distinguish between university education and other training initiatives. And as far as I could understand so far, that distinction has never been very clear. So there's always a sort of contamination between the two fields. Good. So, no, I'd like to say something, just a couple of minutes, 1 minute. Professor Martino said there should be a distinction. Well, university courses are there thanks to the commitment of optometrists who made professional training and who offered the professional training in the university courses. The issue is that many universities think that optometry started at university, and this is at least the impression that many young university students have. So I think clarity is needed. Earlier, previously, I acknowledged the important role that universities have in terms of guidance and education. And I also know that optometry courses will be university courses in the future. We have been repeating that for many years. At the Vinci Institute, our former director has always tried to organize university courses, but it would be great if university courses also acknowledge their origin and where they come from. University education started simply because in the previous 20 or 30 years there were people who really committed themselves in trying to train optometrists at the same level as in the rest of Europe. So there is potential for collaboration. However, when dealing with training and education, the message should be disseminated by which, it should be explained that those who graduate from university have rather started their path and not finished their education path. Thank you, and I leave the floor to Certo.